2023 marks the 75th anniversary of the arrival of the ship Empire Windrush at Tilbury Docks, Essex.
Why do you think the Windrush story is important and should be remembered? The National Archives looks after documents of historical importance. In fact, there are over 14 million in this building alone.
We can learn about events and people of the past by looking at sources. Sources include things like diaries and letters, government records, photographs, news reports, illustrations, posters, and public information.
We're going to take a look at 4 sources to discover more about Windrush and why we remember it.
When the Second World War ended in 1945, countries needed to recover and rebuild. In Britain, buildings had been bombed and many people had died.
Jobs needed to be filled in the health services, transport system, and the postal service.
By 1948, the Nationality Act was passed, allowing people from the Caribbean the right to live and work in Britain if they wanted.
Other people from Europe were also invited to Britain. Some had been forced to leave their home country as a result of the war.
Take a look at this document. What type of source is it? This is a pamphlet that was published by the government in the 1940s and sent to the Caribbean.
It explained what life was like in England. For example, it said the British were reserved, enjoyed queuing, that it rained a lot, and the food was plain and tasteless.
It also includes some hints for workers coming to England, which address the problems they will have finding somewhere to live and the prejudice they are likely to face. Why do you think this was created? Do you think this shows a true picture of life in Britain? On the 22nd of June 1948, the ship Empire Windrush arrived off the coast of Essex after 30 days at sea. There were hundreds of people on board, many travelling alone who had left family and friends behind. This source is a telegram, a short message sent from the Jamaican authorities to the Colonial Office in London, explaining how many people were planning to travel on Windrush. This was not the final number.
The telegram tells us about the job skills of the people on board. What skills do these people have? Have they got somewhere to stay when they arrive in Britain? What information is missing about the people on the ship?
What do you think people might have felt on arrival in Britain from the Caribbean?
The arrival of Windrush is seen as a key moment in the history of people moving to Britain.
But this wasn't the first ship to arrive from the Caribbean. There had been 2 earlier ships, the Ormond and the SS Almanzora.
In the years that followed, many thousands of people came to Britain. Even though people took jobs to help rebuild Britain after the war, they often faced racism and discrimination.
Many people found it hard to find places to live and work.
This source is a report by the Commonwealth Immigrants Council, which looked into housing for people coming to Britain.
What problems did the report find? How would these experiences have made people feel?
In the 1960s, a new law made it more difficult for immigrants to come to Britain. In Bristol, Black and Asian people were banned from taking jobs on buses.
Many people stopped using the buses in support of those being refused work. This became known as the Bristol Bus Boycott. This boycott and other protests led to the passing of the Race Relations Act, which made racial discrimination against the law.
Britain was becoming increasingly multicultural as people settled and started families.
Cislin Faye Allen, who emigrated from Jamaica in the early 1960s to work in the NHS, later became the first black female police officer. Louis Martin, a Jamaican-born weightlifter who came over on the Windrush, was chosen to carry England's flag in the Commonwealth Games.
Take a look at this photograph. What can you see? When do you think it was taken? What 3 words would you use to describe the mood in the picture?
In 1959, Claudia Jones helped to launch the Notting Hill Carnival to bring people together to celebrate Caribbean culture. This event is celebrated every year in August.
In the 1970s, those who settled in Britain were told they could stay permanently. However, a few years later, new immigration laws were introduced.
People were told they needed official documents, which many of them did not have.
Some people were told they lived here illegally and faced deportation from the country.
There was widespread shock at the impact on the lives of many Black Britons. This became known as the Windrush scandal.
In 2018, the government started the process of making formal apologies and said that anyone who had left the UK would be helped to return. This process is still underway.
Windrush Day, an event celebrating the contribution of those that settled and their descendants, would be held every year on the 22nd of June.
Why do you think the Windrush story is important and should be remembered? What does it tell us about who we are today?